Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Danny Lim here, joined by Kevin and Mitch. We are moving into match number 2. This one's exciting. It's an elimination match. We love sending teams home. Ohana versus Vendetta. Guys, what do you guys think about this one? Is it going to be close?
Honestly, both these teams are actually kind of sick. There are some good players across both of these rosters, and I actually think that this group in general was pretty fearsome. I was a little surprised, I think, seeing Hypnos have such a, I guess, a dominant win. I mean, it's a 3-1, right? So you can read into that how you like. I think it was a result that gave me, definitely some faith in Hypnos, and then they got crushed by Space Station, but there's levels to this stuff, so don't worry about it. So this matchup here, I think, like, Ohana has some really great young players, like Rojo, I think, has made a name for himself. Yeah. He also gapped the crap out of Sparker in the Space Station game on DPS, especially on Junkertown. He absolutely gapped him. So very, very good individual. Vendetta has, like, China. Great player, obviously. Hybrid, if you go back away, Hybrid played spent a lot of time on British Hurricane, but also a little stint on London Spitfire. Right. Crispy, of course, and Crook, who recently came across from GG Gladiators. So, Vendetta, a really solid roster. I didn't see much of them. They kind of got diffed by MCD for a lot of this series, though. Just 8 bios for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It was a really interesting series because essentially we saw Hypnos then versus SSG, where they got diffed by the Hardy Winston dive versus dive SSG, which is better, but a similar story here. Maybe not as gigantic of a gap between the teams. I thought it was a lot more competitive, but unfortunately for Vendetta, their just dive wasn't quite matching up. And looking over towards the Ohana lineup, I think you mentioned it, Mitch, but the player to talk about is Rojo, and this guy is essentially, I mean, I've heard him described to me as like Court's little bro, almost. You know what I mean? Which is, you could say, that almost sounds like a little bit of an insult, but it's actually, I think, pretty high praise. He's like the next up hit scan from Saudi Arabia, next to Courts, and so Rojo's definitely one to look out for. This guy's got mechanics on him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely going to be an exciting match. Both of the teams, they do really want to win, right? I mean, it's an elimination match. You lose, you're done. So hopefully, I'm really excited to see what both of these teams have in store for their matchup today. A very important one. You do not want to go home. Like, all the teams, I think, playing in the groups, their main goal is to, move out of groups, right? That's the most important things that they have to do. So hopefully we'll find out the results very soon after the match is being played. But for now, let's take a look at the community poll results. I'm actually no poll results, never mind. I lied. I baited you guys. No poll results. We're not gonna do that. But
I honestly don't know.
Quickly, if you guys have to choose, who do you think is gonna win?
I go Vendetta.
Vendetta?
The reason why is because there's way too many unknowns on Ohana for me. A lot of red names on this team, a lot of players who this might be their first real competition. Where you look over towards Vendetta, way more veterans. You got players that have been around the block, so I trust that team way more.
So for those that don't know, red names means that they don't have a Liquipedia Overwatch page. Thank you. Yeah, Kevin, I'm going to translate for you. But yeah, like, a fair point, obviously. Definitely some, like, lesser known quantities. We did talk about, I think Rojo's a great player. Margin also showed some great flexibility, I think, in their series. Some decent diva play as well. But I'm with Kevin on this one. I do think the Vendetta are favoured.
All right, well, let's get the match started, guys. Take it away.
Oh, I didn't have to pass back to it at all. I could have just kept yapping. No worries. Samoa up first here between Vendetta and Ohana. And like Danny pointed out, one of these teams has to head home. Hybrid, of course, previously was a DPS player, now on tank here for this Vendetta squad, and will definitely be put to the test. I also think Cookie, really solid hit scan DPS player. Keep an eye out for them. I think Rojo is definitely going to be hard for anyone to beat, as we saw. Shuck, I think it was, Sparky he struggled, let's just say, because Ohana do have a nice little double sniper comp with Escanor's Hanzo if they want to bust that out at some point. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, we're talking about Samoa.
I mean, I got no real questions in terms of Rojo's capability. We talked about that already. It's about everyone else on the team. I trust Rojo, but can I trust the other 4 members of Ohana, Vendetta? Okay, they're still, there's some things to iron out. They didn't look amazing versus Hypnos. A couple good moments there. Hybrid, role swap. We talk about it. Move from DPS over towards the tank. They're going to be one trick diving on the Winston. It's basically all they play versus Hypnos. And based on a little bit of the footage we saw from Ohana, they basically just played through the Diva as well. So these are going to be the comps locked in, and might just be the comps locked in for the whole series.
China, a real Tracer aficionado. We expect to see mostly that pick from them. Polish player, by the way, so don't get confused. We see Hybrid here as well, ready to meet Margin, as there is a group up here for Ohana around that left-hand side of the map. I think right now, Vendetta really just trying to get a bit of a measure of Ohana, and also just how potent Rojo can be. They're about to find out. Margin here, now able to dash through that Winston bubble back to safety as Hybrid returns from his dive, one in which he barely takes any damage. Ohana still want to try and make this push happen though, maybe open a little bit of space up for this Cassidy, who's not been able to do as much as he would have liked, I'd suggest.
There's the DMAC, so first blood being found. Margin trying to fly away from danger. Unfortunately, not going to be able to survive that one. Not enough healing coming on through, and the fight should go the way clearly of Vendetta without the Diva.
Nice dive there over towards that Cassidy. Like you mentioned, with that Margin in play, there's nobody to intercept that Winston dive, and Vendetta should have a pretty comfortable way through this first fight. There's a lot of things working against Rojo, and you see they've switched off the Cassidy because they are dealing with Cookie's Ash in general, so having a little bit more, obviously, mobility with the coach gun to avoid the Winston dives, because not only do you roll back or get back, but you also knock your opponent back. A little bit more effective in that sense than Cassidy roll.
I mean, Quartz made the cast work here, but ultimately I do still think the Ash is better in this meta. Most players hit scan side would prefer the Ash, and Rojo wants to be able to challenge Cookie on that longer sight line. Support ultimate starting to become available. Crook maybe under a little bit of pressure. Has to nano Crispy.
Oh, Kaneki Margin in mech here. Yep, Charmer's going to drop down straight away with that Susu, but it's still healing after the fact needed for the Diva. Chef aren't going to be much help in that regard here. Ohana, look at their backline, so low, and yet they've been given a chance to escape. Margin somehow still in mech, hello. Chef eventually does get chased down. But Rojo is struggling. He needs more time than this to have impact on the round, and Vendetta are making that hard. Eventually, that Dynamite claims Cookie. Margin is down. Ohana here have yet to really take the point for even a second. This is going to be a long fight, if at all. And Crispy with the big... Okay, with the big rally. Looking to back up here with a couple players still to maintain point control.
Hybrid went a little too deep there. No more resources available. The rally is going to be there, but you're not going to get healed up super quickly. So losing Hybrid is going to cost a little bit of space. But like you said, points still in favor of Vendetta. Here comes the Bob. Not sure where that got placed, but does force a sound barrier.
Do like to bring in a Diva matchup. So many free Inspire procs. It's just a free whip shot every time Margin comes calling. And they're going to be chased down. No chance to go for a self-destruct for a remake here as Hybrid does finally connect. This is very good for Vendetta. The dive comp looks very smooth. Cookie's follow-up has been excellent, making sure Margin not only gets DMAC but taken down after the fact here. It should be a pretty cut and dry round. Vendetta should have downtown wrapped up.
Yeah, there's just no second round of ults here. Chubber is on 87. To see eventually a Bob coming through. Margin cannot find another remake from the self-destruct for Ohana. They got a couple of punishes in there. Rojo at least got his one. Can type that one in the chat. He got Cookie down at least the one time. So, again, no questions on the mechanical side of that. But on a team scale, it seemed that they were just kind of outclassed in a number of those fights. You see Margin getting DMAX super early, and then it's all neutral, and then subsequent fights. You sort of commented, Margin, okay, he didn't quite die in a subsequent fight. He was alive, but his supports were so low. There just wasn't enough healing to go around. 3 members on Ohana, critical HP, and Margin survives for a little while, but eventually still ends up falling as you move over towards Volcano. This is going to end up being either Genjis or Traces coming through from Escanor and Cookie, all in comps both sides, but I think it's a little stronger look from the Queen, so Hybrid, I think, is on the better character. Margin coming through on the ramp.
This might have been like an anti-dive answer here from Hybrid, but instead is actually going to get to face off against the Ramatri in the brawl. Like you mentioned, pretty decent for the Junker Queen. We do, of course, have advantages for both sides. Cookie actually picking up Tracer duties from China this time around. And there we go, getting picked off. All right, so the Tracer duel won out by Escanor here. Ohana, after a pretty rough first round, have priority.
It's a little bit of a weird mirror because you're typically thinking, okay, you want to be playing this into more of a slow comp on the opposite end, but both teams are essentially in the same sort of situation. They engage some more clever Hybrid because you just Queen Shout and you start rolling on in. Here we go. This is the entry for China.
Okay, Rojo got knocked up briefly by China as they emerged here. See a lot of Suzus being thrown in, but I want to point out that none of these comps have very good throughput, like raw healing numbers in general. So if your poke is good enough, and if you start the fight with enough of a health advantage, it's easy to snowball that, as opposed to dealing with like a Baptiste's regenerative burst or the Arnon defensive nade or something of that nature. So those first few seconds of these fights are crucial.
And the reason why I prefer the Queen in this matchup is because, again, you just have the more clear engage option. For Margin on the Ram, it's like, what are you really meant to do here? Throw the Vortex down and just kind of run at them? It's not really the same. It doesn't have the same hit. Ultimates are coming online. Both teams roughly the same, but Crispy is outpacing Chef by so much. That's going to be important.
Now I'm having a sound barrier here in this fight. Vendetta obviously have point control here, so that would just to be stop the attackers, but they have no chance, they have no time. Crispy gets run over instantly by the tectonic shock now, and Rojo should be able to bounce back to the point and clean this fight up comfortably. Yes, Vendetta get to maintain a lot of these ultimates, and they did use a Kitsune Rush in a losing fight, an ultimate that came a little bit too late in the day.
Crispy wishes he ulted there. If he found an opportunity to sound barrier, there wouldn't have been a counter by Chef, and Vendetta would have the advantage. They have a lot more ultimates coming on through, but the one they missed is Tectonic Shock, which Rojo had. China did not. So Ohana, off the back of one really nice engage and pick from Rojo onto Crispy. Ohana find the lead here on the round.
Soundberry here now for both Crispy and Chef, though, so that lead that Crispy had gets eliminated by the fact that he gets run over in that previous fight. Recall there has to be used by Cookie. I think struggling still in this matchup against Escanor. Yeah, definitely struggling. Escanor wins it out yet again, but Chef goes down. Right, that's the beat note available here for Ohana, and Vendetta say, don't mind if we do. Only 4 players to benefit from it there, but that anti-heal on margin inside Annihilation is enough for Hybrid to swing through on a second pass and pick up the elimination.
It seems like too many ults though, Mitch. I mean, 3 ults. Sound Barrier, Tectonic Shock should have been enough. Just those 2 alone is good. Why play the extra Rampage? It just seemed a little bit extra from Hybrid, and now they lack that. Gives Chef the capability just to play through into, you know, a tempo beat, which is essentially what Crispy did. You see Chef down, Crispy's like, okay, they can't beat in response. I'm just going to throw this ultimate into it. Ohana can absolutely still turn this around, but they do need to be able to at least get some engages, because you're seeing China find these engages. That's why Chef died. China gets in there.
Vendetta's going to find themselves in last fight territory here if they're unsuccessful at dealing with this unanswerable beat. Pulse Bomb here is nice, and if they can pick off Chef again early, but those things really only come once in a blue moon, and Tracer Venture not the best at getting those insta-kills, those picks. So they're going to have to disengage away from this sound barrier. Great response from Vendetta, though. They do see the threat of that beat, and they can actually come back in after it's dissipated. Good protocols here defensively for Vendetta. Now it's time to go on the offense. Set up the Kitsune Rush here. China needs healing, and he's actually out of line of sight. I think Crook was trying to keep them topped up there. Oh, there's a disastrous turn of events for Vendetta.
Yeah. And the flip came through earlier as well, so that means that the round's probably gone. Ohana, they got the flip before the fight really took place with the Kitsune Rushes exchanged. And I think Crook burned through the Suzu too early. He burned the Suzu on a Hybrid, but Hybrid wasn't really under threat. So couldn't save China, who dies to the pulse, and that is going to be it. Ohana find themselves 1-1 so far on Samoa. So that was a reasonably good situation. And I think they find the momentum off the fact that Rojo gets them the neutral. A little bit of a flub situation where Crispy didn't get to use his lead on the sound barrier, and I think that turn of events and how the eventual ults ended up panning out, then the overspend with the extra Rampage coming through Hybrid as well, definitely cost the team economically.
I mean, in that last fight, there's actually been quite a few engagements, rather, where we're just seeing players get picked off at the start of these fights for you know, not a particularly good reason. That has introduced a level of volatility, I think, into this round now that Ohana have been able to swing back. You mentioned like the overspend, for example, or like dying with beat in hand, or like I think Crook builds his sound barrier way faster and then doesn't have a chance to use it. We see both Lucios actually getting taken down with beat in consecutive fights here. So these are things that obviously you really want to tighten up on, but we are seeing like pretty aggressive comps. I mean, Queen, Venture, Tracer is, you know, a comp that really wants to, you know, pull pressure on you and take you by surprise, but Cookie got rolled. I mean, picking up the Tracer there on this particular round from China, Escanor looks very, very solid on that hero as well. And, you know, I think there were multiple solo kills where Escanor felt confident just rolling over their opponent.
It's such an interesting matchup as well, because you don't often see these like full all-in comps in a mirror. Typically, they're played as a counter to something else. You know, you want to punish a slower comp, you want to punish a team playing double flex support or a Sigma. But it's an interesting matchup in the sense of the tanks, as we talked about the fact that I prefer the Queen for the easier engages, but then you also have less engaged targets because the Ram is not the one you want to be focusing on. That's the target that's hard to kill. So who do you actually go into these engages, right? The backline's pretty tough. Lucio might be a target, but still a Lucio, right? You have the Kiriko, but with the amount of utility available for the Kiri, that's pretty tough as well. Venture and Tracer, they're going to be flanking, or they're pretty tough to catch. So this is a very slippery kind of engage for both teams. And despite being on the Ram and not having a clear engage, they defensively found themselves in a good spot. And Rojo being ahead of China earlier on, as mentioned, I think gave them the momentum they needed. So Ohana managed to scrape on through, and, you know, really nice round win, punishing Vendetta, and Vendetta also maybe a few careless mistakes.
And as we head towards Beach, though, we go back to much more of a similar game style than downtown. That means Winston versus Diva here. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, actually. You know, you're feeling like D.Va's probably the tank to be playing right now, and you know, some teams are still persisting, like Space Station, for example, still wanting to play primarily that Winston dive. We will also see Vendetta with the Brig Ana. I do want to point out again, I want to remind everybody that, like, you know, as Brig in this position, like, you could really farm that D.Va for free heals as soon as she dives in. Like, whip shotting her is also potentially quite effective. It will disrupt her for a couple of seconds. Those Inspire procs come easy in that D.Va matchup, and that's it. Every time that's off cooldown, you're going to see Crispy throw that.
I'm actually not surprised Ohana on the Lucio Kiriko, because I think that's an easier backline to navigate. I think the Brigana requires a team to be a little bit more advanced in how long you've been playing together and how well you know the game and your execution for a dive. And most teams, even on the D.Va, probably would actually be on the Brigana, as Margins DMAC to get an Escornos down. So very quick first bloods.
How interesting. Ohana are definitely weaker in the dive matchup against Vendetta. We saw that, you know, over and over again in that first round. They looked really good, I think, when it came to sort of playing the Ramatra setup here, but again, there are concerns. Having Suzu is great, which means you can obviously cleanse off that biotic grenade, but the heal pressure that Ash puts on your team with those dynamites getting, you know, detonated, neither of those heroes, I mean, Chapa cannot really AoE heal, and Chef doesn't want to have to use, like a, you know, that's the heal boost, if possible. Keep that in mind here. Ash, of course, from Rojo, still able to have some impact here as Escanor finds too.
I mean, that's really the entry, right? Ohana, everything else they're doing on the dive is a little bit left to be desired, but at least Rojo's at clicking. He's doing enough damage, and even when he's not getting the kills themselves, a double dink of the crook at long range. Guess what? Escanor's there for the pickup, for the layup. So they'll still manage to clean up where they need to. Rojo is their man. This is the guy that's going to be able to get them across if anyone can do so. Rojo outpacing Cookie by a lot on the ult charge.
Ohana now have the lead as well. China this time gets the chance to match up once more against Escanor, as Cookie struggled a little bit in that previous round. Margin playing from a pretty annoying spot. Going to be tough to dig out of there. Rojo also with a bit of an off angle. China dares to challenge this. Rojo will be under extreme pressure. Perfect. That is beautiful stuff there from China, though not ready for the kunai from the backside. And Crispy got a nano somewhere along the line. And again, there's that Inspire proc. There's that rally coming out after the nano boost. So Crispy's been unkillable for the last 30 to 40 seconds, I'd say. And there should be Vendetta able to clean up the fight, but they need to flip this pretty quick.
Yeah, Margin wasn't interested in remaking there. I mean, maybe would have just died anyway as the Baby D.Va, because you're just looking into the face of a rallying Brig. So possibly smart have just held on to the ultimate Ohana. No chance to really continue that fight. At least they are still ahead. 63 to 30 is a decent lead. Decent number of ultimates being played through by Vendetta is going to allow Ohana now to look towards some advantages on the backline. Sound barrier, tempo beat available, really important. And the Bob lead is going to be consequential as well.
Rojo playing pretty safely here and looking hard to dig out until the pulse came in, and China back-to-back solo kills on the Ash. Looking straight at the secret weapon for Ohana, not so secret, I guess. Looking at their strongest weapon and eliminating them multiple times.
Chaba's got to be there. This is one of your strengths. You're playing the Lucio Kiriko. Deny the pulse bomb with the Suzu. And unfortunately, that's going to allow Vendetta to catch up just a little bit more. Ohana, they've lost their lead on the map itself. They're about to lose their lead in a couple of ultimates here. Cookie's catching up. Chef still has the opportunity to play for a tempo. Here's the first ball.
On for an out. Crispy already taken down. Though sound barrier here from Chef for 2 players. Okay, Rojo's come back off small, looking a little bit low. Eventually going to get picked up by his Primal. Hybrid might be good for 1 more. That is pretty brilliant juggling. Chapa tries to escape. Tries, he might. Eventually he gets run down. And now I don't think Ohana really have the numbers to flip this back. They do at least have the D.Va. If Hybrid can dance this bubble adequately, you can get rid of the Lucio now. It's going to be curtains for Margin, who might have to self-destruct here for a remech opportunity. 99 and counting. You'll have to drop to the point. It's Baby D.Va. Why not self-destruct on the point itself? Okay. Either way, he gets picked off. That self-destruct basically ignored as Vendetta able to line of sight that ability. Lucio again back in the fray. Chef drops to the point and then gets cooked. That'll be that. Vendetta again with that better dive comp. Take it away on Samoa.
That's just tragic for Margie. You could tell, you know, he probably didn't want to have to drop down, but no one was contesting. He's like, well, I'm Baby D.Va. I got to do something. I got to go down and contest, but he just dies straight away. So no remake to be found there. I also just think Ohana, outside of Rojo, finding some damage, and Escanor maybe getting a pulse or cleaning up the damage from the Ash player. Ohana just don't have the capability to initiate. I mean, they're not able to be proactive. You're not seeing them kind of take the game within their own hands. There's no tempo on this team, right? You're talking about dive matchups here. It's all Vendetta. They have all the tempo. They're the ones making all the plays. Hybrid's being, you know, very aggressive when he needs to be. And honestly, his mechanics don't look too bad. You have a lot of players, especially on the DPS side, going over towards tank, and you know, you can just tell they're not really that good on the Winston. They don't have the experience. You know, they're looking miles away from the goats on the Winston. But yeah, not bad on the juggling mechanics, at least versus Ohana. It's certainly more than enough, because Ohana, too many times, they just look like they're sitting on their hands.
Yeah, look, and I think it's great that you have the Kiriko for the Susu, but we talk about overall healing throughput being pretty low. And if that Susu gets used to cleanse a Bionade, it won't be there to cleanse a Pulse Bomb. So there are a lot of things that can put that pressure on Kiriko, force that utility out of her. Sometimes there's just too much to do for that backline. Yes, it's highly mobile. Yes, it's quite slippery. But we saw Hybrid even able to chase Chaba down and, you know, find elimination in Primal Rage with the Juggles there. So if your opponents are good enough, they can definitely still exploit you if things go wrong for your team. I thought Escanor was a pretty solid tracer. You know, China wasn't really opting into many 1v1s. They were, against the tracer? They were looking to go and kill Rojo, and they did that time and time again. I didn't think they correctly identified that the Ashe can be a huge problem if Rojo is allowed to play these aggressive off-angles and not get punished for them. So that's exactly what China was able to do.
I wonder if Ohana can play the Brigada, because it is the ideal backline for a dive, even a Diva dive. You have just way clearer engages. You have the Nano play for the Diva. We've seen so many times, you know, you chuck the Nano onto a Diva play. Ents will do this. You chuck the Nano onto Vastola. He runs in there as a Nano Diva, and he's going to get kills. That guy is good for that. When he's
good for one, at least.
Diva is very good at getting kills in this particular map. Very strong hero. You have to abuse that fact, and beyond that as well, you need a situation where you can shut down the Winston. I think Hybrid's having a very easy game. Lucio Curie versus a Winston. He doesn't really care about any of those heroes. What are they going to do? But a Brig could be a little dangerous. You can lose your jump. I mean, a good whip shot denies your engage altogether. A sleep dart Bionade combination, that's really threatening to you as a Winston. So you got to do something to shut down Hybrid as well, because he's getting away with quite a bit. I would like to see a comp swap, but Mitch, I don't know if they're capable of doing that. I think they might just one-trick this comp, because this is all they know how to play. That could be a possibility.
If that's true, then I think that Ohana are in deep trouble, because they are getting they're getting counted, I think, in their strongest parts of the team, right? At DPS, they're definitely getting shut down. And I would echo you. I'd almost go a step further to say, like, I don't want to see like the Lucio Kiriko composition when you're trying to play this Diva setup. You know, the fights are too protracted, too drawn out sometimes for those heroes to really get you a ton of value. But if you are trying to play that style, let's say, you do have, of course, you know, a couple of maps that you can go to. In theory, you want to be able to rush down and have these quick fights, maybe sort of collapse on a backline easily. But there's no easy about dealing with an Ana and a Brig. This is what you have to work with, of course. We still have, you know, Hybrid, Flashpoint, Push, and Escort maps to choose from here coming out of Control. I don't know if they're looking for a good dive map, because I think where they were strong was when they were forced to play Rush against each other on Volcano.
Yeah, but then you have a situation where, you know, Vendetta don't have to honor that. Vendetta can always play towards a dive as long as it's a dive viable map. They did win in that particular matchup, but that's not even like a true brawl. That's the Tracer Venture sort of all-in type of composition. It's closer to Jotes from, you know, way back, a couple of years back, then, you know, something more standard like a Lucio Bap. There's not even an identical style, and even then, their pacing lacked, man. I think that's the biggest issue right now. If they're going to play Lucio Curie, no matter what the type of comp is, whether that's going to be with a Venture Tracer or with a Tracer and an Ashe, whether it's going to be the Ram or it's going to be the Diva, they just need to be able to get the tempo underway and find their engages, have some speed engages, have some situations where they can get the upper hand, have some flanking plays where maybe the Kiriko wants to be able to move with the Tracer, or be in a situation where you can get that initial dive in first and not just be a team that receives dives, because you can't handle dives. When Hybrid jumps in, you don't have a Brig and an Armor to stop him. He's going to get away with murder. You got to be the team going first at least a few times.
And we're looking at a map, though, that still is dive viable in many parts of it, at least, right? We've seen teams, of course, attempt to play the more static compositions. Diva and Winston are both valid here as well. You can definitely, especially as we get to the third phase of the map, you can think of playing something that is a bit more rush-centric, but there's no part of the map really where you'd be called crazy for trying to play that dive. So Ohana will be on that same comp, that Lucio Kiriko with the Diva setup. Again, continuing to hope that Rojo can be set up for success here and not just completely flattened, clambered on by the dive of Vendetta, which is almost guaranteed to come out.
Yeah, I think we're going to just see the same matchup for maybe the rest of the series here. And it's really up to Ohana to change things up because Vendetta don't need to change anything up. They know that they can play this comp and absolutely do wonders with it. And on the defense here as well, you know, might be a little bit more difficult to be proactive, and it's going to be somewhat hard to resist these dives, so don't lose too much space here. We'll see if Cookie gets something off the initial pick-off, but unlikely, and we'll just go towards the Ashe.
Okay. Standard Widow pleasantries here.
How ungrateful.
Cookie going to be switching over towards this Ashe once more. So China looks for a way in and gets checked at the door instantly by Escanor. But you will notice, of course, the Crispy and Crook combo here grouped up, looking to try and punish Margin, who's getting absolutely flattened. No sleep catch, but yes, the Diva's going to be demeched. There's not enough healing to keep Margin topped up. And that's devastating for Ohana. No real tank to speak of on the field for them now.
He's trying to off-angle. This is kind of similar to what Tread was doing yesterday in Game of Gladiators, where, okay, you're going to be there, but he instantly gets checked by two members. I believe the support line, even of Vendetta, just rushed him down and said, hey, there's a Diva here. As soon as he starts flying away, unless the healing is there, unless the Suzu is there, you're dead, because you're not matrixing as you're running away, as you're flying away. So very, very, very easy demake onto Margin there. And that's what Vendetta needed. They needed to find one person on an angle they could abuse, and that one person was Margin on the angle.
Quick first fight, as you'd expect. That is something that obviously Vendetta showcased a lot over the course of that Samoa map, right? Just being able to hit Margin within a surprising amount of damage very quickly, or catch them. Make it hard for them to get back to that safe healing zone. And even if Chaba could literally just swift step in after the Diva and still not be able to keep them up under that level of onslaught. So now it's up to Ohana. The onus is on them to make a good dive happen here, but Hybrid is still trying to start something up himself.
I mean, they're just playing poke, right? But they're not even on poke composition. This team is functioning really slowly, trying to rely on Rojo to get the job done. That's at least a nice boop off to prevent the Nano Winston from getting value.
Good damage again on Margin. The fake dives from Hybrid. He knows he's going to get booped up off of the top of the castle. And he's just letting that happen, waiting and looking to see if Margin will try and dive himself, and he goes in low. Margin tries to dive at like 60% HP and will be desuited as a result. China is there, hot on his heels instantly. Crook here, under some pressure briefly, but that bob placement really makes it impossible for Ohana to do anything about Vendetta. Then on they march, up the hill they go. Huge fight win for the attackers.
I mean, Ohana do a good job of at least denying Hybrid from getting the dive in, but the payload's still underway. You have to contest, and as the payload moves up, eventually Ohana has to play the ground. Margin decides to do that, but you only have so much Matrix, and he has to fall back towards the spawn of Vendetta. That's not where you want to go, and that's how he gets taken down.
Hybrid getting pummeled
on the
here.
way for Vendetta.
I think Hybrid might have had to jump away. Yeah, drop down at the very least here. There's another D-suit for Margin. First casualty in every one of these fights, and it's, again, happens before the Lucio sound barrier can keep her in mech. Bob here, desperately used to try and save the day. Crook is down, so it's just Crispy's healing, but Hybrid does have the primal rage to lean on should he go that way. And Chef gets eliminated by a whip shot. Crispy looking confident here. Rojo finds something, yes, but it's always too little in these fights. And Ohana have to switch. Decent part of the map to do it. Go to Bap Ramatric here. And that Diva is, yeah, very Jova.
Yeah, I know, that's not going to work for them. They have to know it by now. Margin is on a constant respawn simulator. Flies in, dies, flies in, dies. He didn't even find a single self-destruct, by the way. 2 points, 0 self-destructs. Just couldn't survive long enough to find damage. And speaking of damage, Chef goes down. Cookie finds in Vendetta, pushing through the last corner. They're about to cap.
4:36 and counting. This is a very, very fast pace for the attackers. Losing a total of 0 fights over the course of Icon Vault, so no surprises there. Hybrid's primal here mostly is used for threat generation. Please touch. Okay. Escanor able to drop down on the car and keep this one going. Margin will emerge eventually. China very low. Recalling up onto the high ground, but gets a cookie from the Brig and is ready to go again. Beautiful little laconic throw around the corner from Escanor. Does take the Brig out of the picture. And her shield was down. She was not able just to shrug that off. Finally, Ohana makes something happen here. Escanor is effortless with that pulse, able to chain a couple final blows together in this fight.
Yeah, finally starting to... That's their first fight win, so they've got something done now. Escanor really gets it going because he's the one that touches that 1 meter. You said please touch, and I was thinking as well, is that going to be a C9? Because it's looking pretty rough for Ohana. Finds then the 3-point shot onto Crispy with that pulse bomb and saves the day. Really a Margin on a ram, just holds up the right click and doesn't die, and that's what you need because Margin's been, again, dying over and over and over and over. Just staying alive is providing his team value.
Here comes Crook with the nano here, so Hybrid actually switching over to the Doom Fist instantly enough. There's not much actually to really hinder the movements of this Doom in general. Rojo's down already. Hybrid, of course, gets that nano. Looking very dangerous now. As Margin, frustratingly for a rush tank, will be disrupted and displaced by that Doom consistently in that nice little finish there. 3:12 to play. Vendetta almost having basically a flawless run through Eichenwald. Ohana, a token resistance buys them 40 seconds.
And it nearly makes you believe. You're thinking, okay, can Ohana do this? They did lose A and B quite handily, but you're starting to see a glimmer here. You see a tiny glimpse of what the light at the end of the tunnel actually looks like, but it fades so quickly, Mitch, as Ohana. They just get flattened by the Doom. And I was questioning as well, do we really need a Doom here? This is a little bit risky coming through from Hybrid. A Winston be a lot safer to play through, but he is explosive. He doesn't even allow Ohana really time to adjust to the Doom. He's inside the back line, multi-fragging away, and Vendetta, they don't really drop a beat there. They just continue where they left off. 3:12 is still a commanding finish on Eichenwald. Yeah, that is a lot of time banking. Still looking towards a situation where I think it's likely Ohana get full help.
Playing the rush here into this Winston comp. This is actually an interaction we don't get very much. Again, like playing defensive dive here is possible, but there's not like I guess neutral high ground here that normally defensive type teams like to use, like think outside of Dorado spawn, for example. Less of that. Hybrid can still sort of jump onto a backline here and try and catch people out, and you're going to see a lot of rotations from this Winston to try and disrupt.
Let's see if there's any angles that Ohana can find here.
The anti-widow tech.
Into a winning position.
Yeah, they're not going to have to make use of that triple stack here behind the brig shield to try and kill Widow, but still lets them play that corner a little bit. Slightly obnoxious. Yeah, that deep look for Ohana makes a lot of sense here, but again, it's been a comp that just has not played out well for them over this series so far.
They are moving quickly, though. This is an improvement in pace. What you want to see, you can't have Ohana just standing by and waiting the entire time. Rojo can't do everything for your team. So take a little bit of space. Going to move along the left side. Margin is getting bullied out slightly. They are seeing the point.
China, though, controlling these flank angles really well. Cocky. Lucky to be alive, I'd have to say. Getting knocked out of the way. Vendetta very, very low at the moment here. You can see Crook really working to try and keep them topped up. This would mean quicker support ultimates if they can win this fight out. Rojo under pressure. That immobility really starting to hurt them now as Cookie comes up with a kill credit, but they get Hybrid. Arguably the far more important scalp.
That's capable situation. Rojo's got the better spawn as well. Just need Margin to survive. Suzu cleanses. Excellent timing, but still the mech is gone.
They got the D-suit. It's so hard to keep Margin standing. Again, there's not enough throughput. There's just not enough raw healing numbers on this Ohana roster. And now China's getting built pretty close to that pulse bomb. Hybrid has had enough time now to return to the fight. This is dangerous for Ohana. 2 minutes 42 to still work with plenty of time. China needs to respect this now, able to recall out of that low health situation.
They just need picks, man. They need to get something down. Cookie was 1 HP, is 1 HP basically again, but he's safe. He's got healing. He's got a double frag here. China survives on 1. It's so many members from Vendetta surviving on barely an HP. The only kill they got was on Hybrid, and as you said, probably the most important kill. It's the one you got to actually use, the one you have to actually abuse, but traded for Margin. It's a 4v5 where Ohana have a tank and they still lose a mech, and now guess what? Vendetta, nearly 5 ults.
Yeah, and then you can just cycle here a Nano on the Winston into a Primal Rage. So many options here for you. Eventually, China does fall, loses out in the Tracer battle, and Escador finds a second. Pulse Bomb connection on a Cookie is brilliant. Vendetta don't notice. They're holding on to Hybrid here. They're actually hoping to get probably Primal before Nano, but they are going to have that Nano on towards Hybrid. Can he pressure? Look at the damage. Again, how low Ohana is because of that healer composition they have. Still, they're able to stay alive. Crucially, though, Vendetta stall a little bit. They're going to give up a couple of ticks, though, and some. Hybrid returns. Here's that sound barrier now getting thrown down. Chaba might have been inside the Winston bubble and unable to benefit from it, though. Primal still up for Vendetta. They can stall forever here.
Briggs locked out. Well, Hybrid doesn't Primal that one, so they're going to let the point go. Crispy was locked out by the Bob. I think Crook might have been as well. So well plays coming through from Rojo. He just plugs the hole in the wall and no healing available, but Hybrid, strange decision. I think if he goes for the Primal, eventually the Bob goes away and they can still save the A point.
Was that a decision? Was he knocked up by Bob at the time when he got picked off? It's kind of hard to say.
Still Primal. You can still Primal. It's not a stun. I mean, there's nothing to stop him from Primaling, in my opinion, so he just didn't do it.
Okay. Was that the right call? I mean, again, when you finish the map as quickly as you have, it's not always about getting that full hold on A. I appreciate that, but Well, Vendetta definitely had a few more stall mechanics at their disposal. Hybrid just solo dive Rojo. Presumably China was there, I guess, but he went over the top. Another beautiful pulse from Escanor, really starting to put himself on the map here. Unfortunately, it's probably not going to be enough in this fight after Rojo got picked off instantly. Coming off spawn won't be in a great spot to have impact here. China a little bit more quiet by comparison on the Tracer roster. You can see how Hybrid does not want to hang out in front of the Demon for too long. That is a ton of damage with those micro rockets at close range. That Cookie has just discovered.
Hybrid might get burned down here as well, has to run out. But finally, Vendetta are finding kills, and we talked about Rojo maybe being the player to look out for, but I think Escanor has been far more impactful over the course of Eichenwalde so far. He's been the one finding these opening picks, securing these kills, landing pulses and all the rest. Now finding some good payload move at Kitsuna Rush as well, looking towards the end of the bridge to finish off this point if they can, but Vendetta still plenty of members around, and Chef is so low.
Yeah, and Margin's also being kept below half health for the entire time, which is actually important in terms of that armor not being a hindrance to Tracer. So, again, like, there's no throughput to get Margin back up to full health. They can't afford to dive in. This is one of those compositions here where that little poke damage you can do really matters.
You need to see them have maybe play the Kitsuna Rush into the high ground or forcing Vendetta off their positioning. This Cookie's just free firing. You can't have a situation where Cookie's free firing like that. Rojo needs those angles. You got to deny them from Cookie.
Another Escanor pulse, perhaps?
Yep. Nano is available though.
Oh god, he's been so good.
There it is.
This one though, Crispy gets nanoed, so he's able to avoid that mortal blow, but Escanor drops down and finds Cookie. In the meantime though, it's always Escanor opening the fight and then Vendetta finding a couple of kills their own out of a short-handed situation. This time the rally really sets them up. And that's Crispy giving back after Crook was able to keep them alive under that pulse bomb stick. And for now, they're chilling. Decent walk back for spawners here, but beautiful bio, and Crispy was hoping to capitalize on that, and they might just have to leave it.
You don't want to go too far here. Can't spawn camp just yet. You have to kill the supports if you want to do that. It does get double support ultimates out. Escanor probably should have gone for the level 1 Crook instead, because as I mentioned, Nano was available, so Crook is the better target, but minimum you get the defensive ultimates out. That's something to work through. Final minute here. Payload is still not in the best place. You want it to be on the bridge by now.
Again, it takes a long time to heal your tank up with Ohana's comp. Bob inside the palace here is going to actually force Margin and Co. down to this low ground. Obviously with that mobility Diva, you always have another way around, but Margin is probably going to get denacked here. Delta Strike here though for a refresh. Bio-nade here, big on Ohana. They are struggling!
Wow.
What a stunning connection there from Crook. Margin at least is able to pick himself back up and get back in the mech and get back to work. Cookie's second elimination in the fight was Escanor, but Margin's more than happy to take that fight, and Hybrid was in La La Land at the time. Yes, he can get rid of Rojo, but Margin, as a sole player standing, will able to push this card up a little bit more, soon to be joined by his backline.
That's the best Margin's looked all series so far. He managed to win that 2v2, getting 2 players down. But can they have enough to play through for the final push? Because as mentioned, payload distance wasn't very good. Can't threaten it just yet. Pulse, though, doesn't find any purchase.
And that was one that Escanor was really hoping to get. But he's had a pretty good strike rate so far this round. I'm not going to hold it against him. Trying to force down from the high ground. As yet unaware of where Escanor is. You've got to find a way to break through this Vendetta setup, though. It's Cookie. He's definitely the weak link, but Rojo is the first Ash to get picked off in the end. And here comes the Kitsune Rush now from Ohana. They've got to make this stick. Chef got to be chased away by Hybrid, though. Now as he turns his attention in the direction of Margin, who is, of course, basking in the Kitsune Rush for now. That extra healing from Chaba still isn't enough to keep him in the mech, and Hybrid is healthy. Cookie will be returning to the fray in a moment, and that Susie was just used for a stay of execution as Ohana eventually capitulate outside the castle and give Vendetta their second map of the series.
That's 4v5 to start the final fight, though. That is the critical thing. So they just lack the extra member to play through, but still they kept it competitive. Kitsuna Rush comes on through. They even get a 2-man trade, and you start to believe once more. You just see that glimmer, Mitch. It's just so close. Maybe you get something out of this Ohana team, but it just takes them so long. At least we saw an increase in tempo. We saw them cap that A. I am still going to argue that I think Vendetta probably could have full held that one, and Hybrid chose not to. Primal is a little bit questionable for me. They probably could have played that a little bit of slight sloppiness, but they'll still win it out. They still have the experience on their side. Massive ult bank, massive economical advantage, and still too many wasted opportunities for the side of Ohana, where if Rojo or maybe Escanor actually on that particular map can't open you up, nothing's really happening for this team.
Yeah, we spent so much time highlighting Rojo at the start of the series, but the Tracer play from Escanor was sublime. Pulse Bomb is 6 on the breach, which is quite often your target in these dive compositions. Very, very good here for forcing at least, you know, those nanos out of Cook, for example. But it's often Rohu getting dove on by China, who doesn't look to take Tracer 1v1s in the same way that Cookie was trying to, I think earlier on, and less concerned about securing flanking routes and more about just trying to pick off those crucial targets here. Again, we talked about this composition. I think the Brig Ana setup is far more durable and especially potent against the D.Va in general. We saw obviously the switch up here towards that Ramatra comp towards the end of the round, but it did nothing really to slow things down. I think for Vendetta is Hybrid to switch to Doom, and yeah, Ramatra can't do a whole lot there. It's a very frustrating head-to-head that he has to play Ramatra v Doom.
And again, they don't have the dive counters there. It's not like Doom's playing into a Brig or Ana who has so many, you know, tools in the belt to be able to stop a Doom, all the sleep darts, fire nades, etc. It's the exact same tools you would use to shut down a Winston that just isn't available for this Ohana team. They still got a reasonable amount done with what they had, but it's just not going to be enough. And you know, I had a feeling, you know, it's just one of those things you sort of gather in the ether. I just had a feeling that this team, they have this one style, and you often see it with more inexperienced teams. They prefer the Lucio Kiriko because it's just a little easier to pilot as a comp. Brig Ana is more difficult to play, but it is the correct thing that you should be playing. If you're a good team and you want to play dive, you should be on the Brig Ana. There's a good reason for it.
No, absolutely. And we harped on it a little bit, I think, at times, but giving your tank the nano is a huge difference maker. Having that extra durability, and of course, just that little greater margin of error, something that we saw Hybrid sort of use pretty extensively here to play aggressively and sometimes, you know, play solo when he had to. So very, in general, strong showing for Vendetta. I think their composition is a little bit more well-rounded. And despite the performance of some of these individuals on the side of Ohana, they're walking out of that second map not only 0-2 down, but actually completely battered and bruised. Like, that was not particularly close here. Definitely wasn't something that resembled what we saw in the first map, where they looked better in that rushdown style. And we discussed this in the previous series, Kevin. I don't think there are many maps where you can actually try and force that rush style. I mean, there are always going to be relevant dive maps available in the pool here, and even those rush maps, you can opt out of them, still try and play the Winston. So we'll see how that pans out. Ohana have some time to try and select their battlefield to suit their comp as well as possible. We'll see you on the other side of the break. It is Ohana on the precipice of elimination from OWCS Stage 3. They've struggled so far over the course of this series against Vendetta, against their Winston dive composition, and they've decided to try and force a rush comp. That's right, looking at Circuit Royal here. We know it's the kind of map that's featured plenty of the Ramatra Sigma looks, and Ohana's hoping that's their silver bullet, their ticket to get out of the doldrums, Kevin.
It's certainly going to test margins here, Paul. Here, I wonder if a Sigma is going to be available, because that's still a classic for this map. I mean, I think the default for Circuit is probably actually still these Sigma comps. We're looking towards Poke, we're looking towards Fires, right? If you want to dig into what the actual meta for Circuit is, what is most commonly seen, especially by the top teams of the world, we look over towards OWCS Korea. You're having Widowmaker or Ashe paired with the Fire, looking over towards a Sigma, oftentimes a double flex support as well that includes an Alari. So is Ohana going to bring any of that to bear, any of that to the table today? You also mentioned possibility for a brawl. Honestly, despite kind of sort of winning on the brawl, I wasn't really feeling it. The Ram look on Eichenwalde, it saved them for one fight, then they got flattened by, you know, the hybrid Doom coming through. Yeah, they did take a round on Volcano for Samoa, but that was a weird situation where I think also Vendetta played that super poorly, and it was like, you know, that's like a all-in mirror, which is not quite a brawl mirror either. So we're going to head over towards Circuit, where indeed it is going to come down to the Sigmas, and because there's no double flex look for Ohana, they're going to play the original sort of Sigma comp here in the mirror, which is going to be Brig and back together, which is decent into a Sigma mirror, but if you look at Vendetta, Mitch, that's the exact comp I just outlined in terms of what I think is the best.
And it's fine, right? The Brig, unfortunately, now is a little superseded. She doesn't do a whole lot. You know, obviously outside of Rally being very powerful, and when eventually these like Pocom start to fight. But outside of that, I mean, Chef Shield just kind of gets chunked down by the Farah. That's definitely going to be something that is annoying to deal with. Escanor, of course, on the Echo wants to blow cooldowns and hopefully eliminate someone like China as quickly as possible. And this is where Rohu looked pretty good on the Widowmaker. Very solid Widow. Saw that on Junkertown against SSG. Can they find success against Cookie, who on the hit scan has been no slouch either this series?
Emo's already used. Marge already got taken down at 1 HP, so you're seeing utility being blown super early. In fact, Hairpin's at this point being taken. Marge is being forced out.
I mean, China also very, very low. Takes a glancing blow there. Crispy's lost the healing pylon, which was placed a little far forward in fairness, but as attackers, that does happen. We're still trying to Escanor briefly exchanging blows. We definitely need to see Echo dispense those cooldowns very quickly to get a player advantage here. Chef, what are you doing in the front line? Oh dear, they could not do a thing about it. I think they got conked forward, but the Brig can be a liability against Farah in these poke comps. Thank God for Rojo, I guess.
He walked past the shield. He walked past Hybrid shield, so his own team couldn't even really help him. He overcommitted so much. At least the window's there. Chaba with a quick window. That is going to buy them much needed time. Chef's going to come back on Ilari now. Okay, are we going to actually see the capability out of Ohana to match this double flex support?
I mean, Rojo just bailed Ohana out big time. He just turned out to the court and basically knocked the bailiff out. It was that extreme. Beautiful couple Widow picks here. Rojo set up obviously to deal with the... Oh, these are dirty spots. Dirty spots indeed, but Cookie takes the direct approach and just blows margin up. So that's that. For Ohana here, they are going to be forced back and give up that checkpoint.
Slow going for Rojo. This is the map that he needs to show up on. Talked about the hit scan prowess so far. Was okay on the previous two maps, but this is the one where you have to be the carry. You have to be the guy to get it done. Escanor as well needs to find a situation to shut down China, but the other thing is, as an Echo, you're not often in range on this map to actually shut down the Farah. Farah can play so much further away, and you don't want to get in the sightlines of Cookie either. As we look over towards Vendetta, Crispy, ultimate available.
Yep, China went down against Escanor. That's scary, and you're right. You're just going to get shot by Widow if you try and fight the other Farah at length. Margin is so dead. So very dead. Rojo at least able to find a pick on the backside, but the numbers favor Vendetta so heavily, and China probably... don't know if they need to be there, Chava. That's fine. We're not able to fall back to disengage, and now Ohana are really on the back foot. Escanor has duped a Sigma.
They're just going to bail out. I mean, the Sigma's going to walk up. That lets them retake, touches the payload.
Flux from Margin, that is a bona fide one. Hybrid gets caught in it, takes some damage, but was healed up constantly. And Margin has spent most of this game below 50% HP, let alone this map. Ooh. Crispy, great interrupter on that captive sun now, when Escanor was waiting for him with open arms and a focusing beam to finish the job. And Cookie's found a couple of picks though, and he's found both DPS. Somehow Kevin Cookie just takes the game over. Dirty Widow play.
Yeah, he's got all the angles. I mean, Rojo's stuck in spawn there. He's got nothing to look at except the payload. Honestly, that was a really nice rock from Margin. Didn't expect that one. Crispy shut down, no Captain Sun, and he was patient as well. But Crispy was waiting for the kinetic grasp and maybe the shield to be gone before he rocks the sun up, but instantly rocked out. Still not enough. We talk about Cookie, we talk about China. Vendetta now, very, very large time bank walking over towards C. It's looking like Eichenwalder all over again.
Rojo again finds those two kills that bails Ohana out of a really compromising situation in an early point A cap from Vendetta. Since then, it's been a pick here, a pick there. They've been eclipsed by Cookie's impact, and they continue to be, apparently. Chef gets taken down again. Too many first picks on Chef have made it hard for Ohana to play a full... What the heck was that, Cookie? What an adjustment, Rojo. That's a free haircut. And that is Ohana.
Gross.
They're just getting folded back into their spawn.
Yeah, look, Paylo's about to finish the map very shortly now. Ohana's just chilling by the pool, lounging around. Again, they need to be a little bit more active than that. You got a point to play at this rate. Chef still has ult. In fact, Chef finally finds his Captain Sun, but he's half HP.
Okay. We'll see Escanor at least be able to stall things out on the card a little bit there. Having a duck down as Cookie was still looking for the shot. Crispy on a flank here. Chef in some danger, tries to use the outburst to help a teammate. Rojo finds the pick at least. Recall from Escanor to buy some time. No accretion available for Hybrid here. And they're not going to finish the map quite yet, Vendetta. Cookie can still pressure this Sigma down. Thinks better of it though.
What they needed was a little bit more healing power, but support's gone. Hybrid solo on the point. Obviously not going to burn any ultimates. Cookie though, that's got to be the main talking point so far. He is ripping through Ohana. Rojo's done very little to slow him down. And for Vendetta, I mean, almost unfortunate they didn't finish there, because it looked like Cookie was about to finish that one by himself and force it.
It's high ground now. He will see the Sigma set up, as per the usual. You'll notice that the Widow is conspicuously absent. It's just the 4 players here for Vendetta, and I think that Escanor's cottoned onto this and is looking for Cookie. Great captive sun catch, though. Karuk has to be careful. You're over the top. Ohana can detonate that. But the Immortality Field keeps him standing. It won't be available now for the Flux Aftermath. And Martin wants to barrel into the corner, pile in. I think there was a regenerative burst, though, available for Crook. It came out at a great time and causes Martin to become overextended. The flux play looked reasonable, but the follow-up was not there. And the cooldowns were available for the BAP.
And the pulse is gone here as well. Hybrid just chomped that one up. And now Vendetta, this time they have the numbers to finish the cap. This time Ohana don't look like they have the capability to stop it. No more ultimates. Cookie still firing away. Mech has gone from Margin. It might just be over.
I think it is. Yeah, now it's going to be Chava picked up once more. And with a minute 40-ish on the clock, Vendetta get the map done. Now, considering how fast they came out of the gates and how fast they got into this last part of the map, Vendetta gets slowed down pretty drastically towards the end.
You can just see how much they're throwing in and not finding purchase as well. Captive Sun from Chef. Catches 3 members. Saved by a lot of healing. Lamp being thrown in there. And then on top of that, then you see Margin throwing in the flux as well, and he dives in. He's desperate for some kills, but the healing is just too strong. The staying power is so strong, and Vendetta refused to lose members, and that should have been a wipe. Combination of those 2 ultimates should have been enough for Ohana to be able to hold on and at least slow things down. I mean, time bank 139 from over 4 minutes is what we started on C, is a significant shave down of the clock, but yeah, Vendetta were going to finish no matter what. They were always going to finish that C point. The question was just going to be how large was the time bank going to be?
Again, I think that the real bright spots for Ohana here, I wouldn't say any of them came from their backline. I think that was the struggle for them there. Chef and Chava really, they're really going through it and getting pressured very, very heavily. Crispy, of course, on this Ilari, definitely able to have some great impact. Margin's going for a couple of plays. We saw that Gravitic Flux towards the end of that round, where he drops it in over the wall, tries to fly over, follow up on it, ends up getting caught out. Ohana here as well are often sending Escanor off to deal with Cookie, trying to chase down that Widow, which makes perfect sense, but it does leave them short-handed here when they are actually taking these proper all-in engagements.
I tell you what, Cookie dominated on the offensive Widow. It's typically, I think, better for the defensive Widow in terms of sidelines, and Rojo struggled there. So what I'm trying to get towards is if Cookie had a good time on the offensive Widow, he's going to have an even better time defensively.
Escanor here not opting to take any sort of like ambush route over the top. Okay, Cookie! What a shot! Escanor is always going to be an endangered species once the Widow is out there. Cookie really finding a bit of a flow state over the last couple of halves of play. A nice bio here, probably won't have a lot of opportunity for follow-up. Martin tries, but realizes that the rest of his team are not there.
I think you're just your Widow bait if you're Escanor on the Echo because you have less mobility than a Fire. At least a Fire has, you know, the extra new flying ability to shift away very quickly horizontal. I see what Rojo can find. He's got a lot of work to do. Crispy left on 1 HP there. You'd like to finish that player off, but not going to be found.
Rojo has to play for some more obvious angles, right? There's only a limited number of spots where attacking Widows can post up here. So Cookie can cycle through those and check them again. Escanor down! And he was playing safe. Look how close to the corner he was. Such a small window. All you need is a pixel.
All you need is 1 pixel. And Cookie finds a Rojo, though. He gets the pixel he was looking for. He knew it. He had the angle lined up. Cookie was going to make the play. Rojo reads it correctly. And now, opportunity, but Margin still under a lot of pressure. They have ultimate, so they can push with this. Nano's available.
Healing was good. Margin goes a little bit low at some point, but definitely is able to manufacture some extra pressure behind that pick that Rojo generated. Cookie, though, is going to return in just a moment and be set up in a good little sniper spot. Escanor realizes that now the pressure is on, and that is great connection with the tri-shots to clean up the Widow. Now, Hybrid starting to feel it. Crook does have an amp matrix here, and of course those defensive cooldowns being cycled by the Sigma allow Hybrid to stay alive for the time being, but that bio will end him. Nothing Crook can do about that. Ohana eventually push over with 4:30 to play now for this second climb. They're going to be feeling decent. Again, it's Rojo that opens things up for them.
A little bit of an awkward POV coming through from the Echo of Escanor, but he still managed to find the shots. I mean, the nanoed up tri-shots will be enough to get Cookie down. Wastes both beams, sadly, just doesn't find any good beam damage, so not the best Echo mechanics, but copy onto a Seg, good rock on towards Hybrid. Eventually, that's the cap, so good amount of time in the bank as well. 4 minutes, it's solid.
Another one. Good pick on the Widow. Rojo counter-sniping very effectively right now. Margin happy to turn around now after throwing that flux that holds most of Vendetta in place, and Escanor again. The DPS of Ohana starting to shine, and that card is halfway up the hill. Look at how far forward Ohana have drawn the battle lines. It's been tough for Vendetta to fight out of the hotel.
Yeah, this is important. This is what's going to help Rojo a lot. It's going to help Escanor a lot as well, because you're denying sidelines now. You're denying China, especially. A really difficult spot for China to play through. He needs to get out in the open.
Hybrid can do it behind a flux, but definitely needs there to be follow-up and can't afford to be interrupted. So he sees the accretion used. Now he knows it's go time. All right, pressure there on Chaba, I think it was. Getting hit with a captive sun. Hybrid drops down after the flux, and that annoying Ilari turret keeps Margin topped up. Eventually, though, he has to be brought to heal. Vendetta find a break. Finally for Vendetta here. A chance to filter out of the hotel and set up again to the high ground.
So Crispy a second to get that kill on the captain's son, but Chef doesn't really find much. Not too sure what happened to his son. Certainly out of the picture. Vendetta throw a lot at the wall though. That is maybe the most desperate we've seen Vendetta so far. Almost getting spawn camped there. And maybe the most competent we've seen Ohana so far as well. So, you know, talk about light at the end of the tunnel. We're starting to reach that ever so slightly further, and the light's kind of getting a bit brighter for Ohana. Can they get it done? Margin low HP. They're going to push up. Make use of this nano again. Probably on Escanor.
Yeah, that nano, of course, being available here for Chaba. The options are more limited. It might be Escanor that gets that extra durability.
Should be the Echo.
Allowing him to dive a little bit harder, or maybe you can sit defensively here. Oh, buddy! Well, great shots here coming in from Escanor. Sticky Bombs claim China. And that was really just a neutral fight win for Ohana. They do find the pick, and it was nano over towards Escanor in the end, allowing him to be that much more aggressive. So a time-bank extension coming up here for Ohana.
Yep.
Pretty respectable at that. 3:28 to work with. So 2 minutes of time bank lead, essentially.
You know, I was ready to criticize the Ana inclusion to this comp as well, because I was thinking, no, the comp should be Ilari Bat, but that locks you into this kind of Vendetta poke-style gameplay where Ohana are just kind of losing that. They're losing them, or they need something different. See, the Ana comes through. It gives them offensive capability that's a lot easier to realize. Just nano your Echo in. Declare target to have something of, you know, some strong initiation. Nanoing the Sigma in, just you can't really walk up, but the Echo can instantly fly in. This is going to be a slow down though. Rojo's had the better cookie for a while, but now will die.
A little bit harder here. Ohana get kind of caught in between positions. Vendetta find a good little spot to accelerate. Okay, finding Crispy unlikely to be all that impactful, especially as it's resulting in Escanor trading. Now Vendetta can set up over on this balcony, and also, of course, that back window. Still have to respect the fact that Rojo has some long sidelines to navigate now. There's definitely a question of how long he wants to remain on this pick, if there's the option to force this all the way down Vendetta's throat or not. But that time is ticking already.
See if Cookie knows he's got an advantage here as well, because Rojo cannot match the infrasight. And infrasight timing means that Ohana basically can't check or peek at all once it's popped by Cookie, if he decides to do so.
He'll hold it to counter, surely.
It depends whether he knows Rojo's behind or not. If he thinks Rojo has it, then he'll hold it for sure.
But defensively, definitely don't want to let the Widow get the jump on you. In fact, Cookie uses it here. They've lost China, though, to the focusing beam. That is the more pertinent issue. Captive Sam eventually claims Chopper as Cookie was able to detonate it, find the kill. Escanor with a dupe on the Sig. Very annoying for someone like Cookie, who basically can't be firing past that shield, and Vendetta have to go full regroup. But as it stands, Kevin, they're going to have a time bank lead.
And Crook just jumps into Escanor there as well, so it's a free B4. Our Echo player who's going to go down, traded by China, brilliantly played. Does that give Vendetta enough? Chef still has ultimate. This is still enough to cap.
It's the flank angle for China. It actually is pretty powerful here. I don't think Rojo has a good sideline on it. There's the dupe, another Sigma on the field. A lot of shields here to break up these shots coming in from that Widow. Margin goes down. China gets to use these cooldowns. A kinetic grasp here to let his team push up. He actually gets behind some of Ohana here. Backs away before being able to build the flux, but it doesn't matter. Vendetta have still bought themselves the breathing room they need, and now they have a Matrix to lean on.
Just a little too excited there for Chef. I mean, blows the Captive Sun before the kinetic grasp is even out, so the easiest eat of Hybrid's life. Goodbye, Sun. As Vendetta will happily be able to take that ult away and then come through with their respawns and overpower this Ohana offense, which at this point, it's going to come down to an OT push. At least they're threatening an OT push. They're threatening something. China's going to finish this one off on the Venture. Actually, a really good pick for Circuit C.
Just one of those headshots for Cookie would have been curtains for Ohana. Finding one of the supports there would have been massive. Escanor gets nano now. It's about making use of it here. Trying to get past that air Matrix, but still getting brought low. 1 HP to Dream. Eventually, Crispy's able to finish the job, and now that air Matrix can be used to force the rest of Ohana back. 17 seconds, which means they don't have time to regroup and take another fight. It'd have to be here, but they've only got the dregs left to play with. China surges forward on that venture. And Ohana are going to be brought to a stop here. This is going to be the series. Unless they can make something truly brilliant happen. Who do they have to touch? They have the Tracer of Escanor. Can they get there? Force by Nails, overtime ticks down. Escanor does get that brief touch. Cookie, though, is going to be set up here to answer the threat of the Widow. Being pressured a little bit here by Chaba. We can't do much about the Hyperspheres, and Crook just shooting at him from the low ground. Round of options here. Margin desuited, and try as they might. Ohana with some decent Widow play. A decent poke comp on Circuit Royal. That was their last chance expended, and they flame out of OWCS Stage 3 as Vendetta advancing in this group.
Unfortunately, this will not be the event that advance Ohana through further to OWCS or maybe get them the blue names just yet. A red name team with red name players will unfortunately have to go through qualifications once more. It was a tough battle, outmatched by Vendetta on every single comp. At least on the SIG, I think they started to have a chance. You know, we saw the glimmers of hope there, but they ran out of time, ran out of maps to play through, and I think just sort of found the composition a little too late. The Diva was definitely not it.
I mean, like you guys said, it was Vendetta taking the win 3-0 against Ohana. I do have to say, though, Escanor from Ohana might be my new favorite player. It was pretty impressive.
It's only because you're a Seven Deadly Sins fan. I know, I get it.
I don't know what
but
you're
guess what?
about.
Guess what, Danny? The sun went down, bro. The sun went down. You don't know what happens to Escanor when that happens. He starts to look twiggy and dweeby, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, talking about sun going down, walk us through this match one more time, guys.
Okay, I mean, look, yeah, let's throw it all the way back, right? We saw, two different styles of comps on Samoa, right? Because Volcano forces a rush style, right? But in general, I think the Winston composition, but more importantly, the Brig Ana here composition for Vendetta looked much better, Kev.
Yeah, I think the Lucio Kiriko is just not really what you want in this particular mirror. Maybe if you are like a very aggressive team, a team that's have the mechanics to make that sort of style work, but defensively you can't stop the Winston dive. Defensively you can't stop the Doom dive as well. And Hybrid showed what you can do on the Doom on this final point is you just sort of melt by. Lucio Kiriko can only do so much for you. When a Brig Ana could have stopped the Winston, could have stopped the Doom, Lucio Kiriko doesn't do that. And too many times, I think one of the biggest issues is also tempo. You got to be a fast team. You got to play Lucio Kiriko, be quick, have the pacing, have the initiation. Too many times we see Margin on the Diva just getting completely destroyed in the server. He was on a respawn timer. He just loses mech time and time and time again. I remember one of the phases, either attacking or defending, where he didn't get a single self-destruct ultimate. Just wasn't alive long enough. Just didn't do enough damage. Unfortunate.
And we go to Circuit, right? We get to see the Sigma comps play out here. And I do think it's a comp that lets Ohana play to their strengths, which is, undoubtedly at their DPS. I think Rojo and Escador are really solid players. I mean, if you're looking at a team, if you're out in Saudi Arabia and you're all starting to build a roster, like I really think you should be looking very closely at both of these individuals. I think Rojo's like 19, right? So young players with a lot of potential here. But again, like this Vendetta team's got a ton of experience. I am surprised they lost to Hypnos. They're going to get a chance to rematch them to try and make it out of the group, and I think that's a match well worth looking at.
Yeah. I mean, they really did need that win. I mean, and by getting this win, they are still alive, so Vendetta will be moving up. But I think it's time to highlight some of the players from Vendetta, from the winning team. I think both of the DPS were really good, but the player of the match for this specific series, goes to the tank player, Hybrid. Whether it was, I think, the Sigma, or, I mean, you guys mentioned it as Winston as well. He was a great tank for this series.
This is a player that surprises me because, these role swaps don't often work out. And, typically DPS is the mechanically more demanding role, but oftentimes we've seen DPS move over to tank and it just doesn't really look that good. It takes them a while to get comfortable on it. But really, if you turn the nameplates off, you'd think, yeah, this guy's been playing tank for a while. You'd think that this guy is pretty experienced because you didn't really see some of the key things, some of the key markers of like, oh, that's inexperience on the tank. He's got the clean mechanics for sure on the Doom as well. And that's a little bit of a trademark our DPS players having from Overwatch 1 Doom being moved over to Overwatch 2 Doom. You got that here that you can always play. But most surprisingly, Hybrid on the Sigma was not what I expected because this is a very specialist hero. Most tank players, even in the main tank's position especially, can't effectively play Sigma. But Hybrid just comes in and he's hitting shots and he's playing that Sigma well.
Yeah. How surprised were you guys when Hybrid pulled out the Doomfist?
It is actually a pretty good answer to like Ramacha, for example. It can be really annoying for Ram to deal with, and also lets you like get past him. Because trying to run past Ramacha is actually really annoying. He like vortex you and then start punching you in the face. So if you can go around or over him, you can start to find some leeway. There are a couple corner cases where I think is good, especially if it's not against Cassidy comps. He hates the hindrance from the flash. It's like a real problem for him. So if you don't have to play against that, if it's like Ash Tracer, okay, yeah, Doom can work.
Yeah. I mean, Hybrid definitely was our player of the match, but there's another player that really stood out in this match, and it is going to be our post-match interview for today. We got level 1 Crook on standby for a quick post-match interview. Crook, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Awesome.
It was a nice match.
Congratulations. Yeah, it was a very nice match. Big congratulations on getting the win. I'm just going to start this off. You know, how do you feel right now after getting this win? You know, this was an elimination match, and because a lot was on stake for you guys. You know, how did you guys play out the match?
Well, we were confident we would beat them. We've beaten them before in the Swiss stage, so it wasn't really a shocking win, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, you know, obviously you, Crook, there's a bit of a reset for you now, of course. You know, your time with that GG roster has sort of come to an end, but you've joined a team here with like a ton of potential and a lot of players that like have a ton of experience. You actually end up losing that game to Hypnos though, which is, you know, if someone is maybe looking at like the roster, maybe they're expecting you guys to be able to do more in that matchup, and you're going to get a chance to go up against them again to get out of the group. What do you think went wrong for you guys last time you played them, which was, you know like a couple of days ago, and you know, what do you sort of think needs to be tweaked for you to get out of this group? Because after a game like that, you guys look like you have the caliber to be fighting for, you know, that main event.
Well, I think honestly we just played like clients. We're definitely clients of the week with that match. We didn't really play as a team, unfortunately, but we're gonna look in for the match when it actually counts, because that match didn't really change anything, right? But now we gotta win. So we're gonna look in for that one.
So you've obviously, you know, again, to sort of speak on your past a little bit, you obviously have come through from Game Gladiators, playing through the World Cup and all that. Now you're onto a different team. So, you know, what kind of growth do you have as a player now moving forward on a brand new team, and probably maybe having a chance to go up against Game Gladiators in the future? I mean, what are you guys looking towards as goals for your team?
Yeah, I guess that would be the Vendetta, right? If we go up against Gaming Gladiators, that would be the matchup I'm waiting for. But to be fair, no bad blood between them. They made their choice. So I'm happy to play. I'm just chilling. Gonna do university anyway, so I'm having a great time, enjoying that I can be here.
All right, well, Crook, thank you so much again for this amazing interview. And again, big congratulations on getting the win. I'm excited to see more from you and from your team moving forward.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.